On this episode of the Apple Watchers, Apple Watch granted tariff exemption. Apple Watch app can monitor your body's response to coronavirus. Apple stores are closed outside of China, but may start reopening in mid-April. Siri can now answer questions about coronavirus. If you left your Apple device for repair at an Apple store, you may not be getting it back for a while. Apple updates iOS, iPadOS, watchOS, macOS, tvOS, and the HomePod. And we got a new iPad Pro with mouse and trackpad support. We also got a new MacBook Air and Mac Mini. All this, our picks, tips, and much more. This is episode number 22. Welcome to the Apple Watchers, a podcast covering all things Apple Watch and many things Apple. This episode and every episode is brought to you by me, Kevin Hare, and my co-host, Jonathan Zarko, aka Jay-Z. All right, let's get started. Well, hello. How are you? How you hanging in there?
Doing good.
You guys
been locked in
doing
the
good?
house for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, but you get out a little here and there, right? I've been getting out.
Yeah, I've been taking a walk to the grocery store every day or so.
Yeah, I try to get out and walk, but I'm staying away from people altogether as much as possible.
The stores are mostly empty, which is nice. But it's been interesting to go every day nearly to see what new thing is back. Uh,
Oh, like
so
what
because
items are in stock?
yeah, the first few days was a little rough. There wasn't a lot in there, but then you go back like, oh, they have milk. And then the next day, oh, they have eggs. And we got a loaf of sourdough bread, which was like gold.
Yeah. And well, to our listeners, I'm sure anyone listening knows what's going on. We're speaking of the coronavirus, of course, and we would like to thank anyone who is out there on the front line, anyone who's in the medical industry, grocery workers, just anyone that's out there dealing with the public and still working.
Mm-hmm.
Would just like to say thank you for your service.
Yeah,
It's
really.
incredible.
Thank
Putting
you very
your
much.
lives in danger for us. So we thank you. As we get started here, recording this episode, we'd just like to mention there might be a little bit of background noise here and there. And I'm sure you're aware because things have changed a little bit. So we have significant others and they're here at home as well. And they can't go off and, go to the movies or go hang out with their friends. So they're here too. So
Mm-hmm. In the background.
yeah, so if there might be a little bit here and there, but anyways, why don't we get started with some Apple Watch quick stories? So let me start this off. Apple releases new watch bands and iPhone cases. So they do this every season pretty much. So there is new silicone cases for the iPhone 11 and iPhone 11 Pro, and these colors match the Apple Watch band as well. So there's both, and they come in
So you can
cactus,
matchy matchy.
yeah, that's pretty cool actually. But yeah, so the colors that match both the phone and the watch are cactus, grapefruit, and surf blue. There's also new sport loops available in Sunshine Sport, Vitamin C, Surf Blue, Neon Lime, and Neon Pink. Apple has also released new Apple Nike sport bands in black/lime and midnight turquoise/aura green. So the little holes are the bright color that are on those sport bands.
That's fun.
Yeah. And they also released a couple Nike sport loops, and that's World Indigo/Lime Blast and Hyper Crimson/Neptune Green. And I believe that is the kind of two-tone looking bands where when you pull it over, one
Yeah,
side
you
is a
get one
different
on.
color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also a few new modern buckles in raspberry and deep blue sea, as well as a new peacock leather loop. That's the colors peacock. And finally, a new fancy leather single tour and double tour versions, including orange swift leather and noir gala leather.
Mm.
And I would say I have none of these. I don't know if this season's colors are quite my thing. I don't do a lot of the bright colors. if you've noticed on my
Yeah,
watch bands. But
the cactus is
they're
still
neat.
kind of like a neutral, green.
Yeah, I tend to like the darker greens and olive, of course, as we've mentioned on another previous episode. Anyways, yeah, that's about it for that. You can find these, of course, on their website and in the Apple Store app where they're showcased.
Yeah, I will say I've been looking at some of these other ones here, and I'm not a huge fan of the rubber um bands, but I do like this midnight turquoise or green because it's like a
Mm,
nice dark kind of pale blue, and then the aura green is like a blue green as well. Fits nicely. There's some cool options in there if you're looking to jazz
yeah,
things up a little bit.
yeah, very cool stuff.
All right. Well, Apple's been granted tariff exemption for the Apple Watch. And so, exactly what does that mean? It means that Apple doesn't have to pay 7.5% tariff when importing finished Apple Watches from China. The Apple iPhone dodged tariffs last December when the president's administration reached a phase one trade deal agreement with China. Apple also said it hasn't found an alternative source for Apple Watches that would be able to meet the demand for the product in the United States. So they've applied for tariff waivers on other products, including the HomePod speakers, AirPods, headphones, and iMac computers. It has also requested waivers on iPhone parts. Apple's iPhone dodged tariffs last December. Again, also allowed them to ditch the tariffs on the iPhones because of the phase one deal. So they're saving on the iPhone, and I think they're trying to get, like I said, the iMac as well.
Yeah, so this is good news.
Keeping the price lower for us too.
Yeah, so hopefully the Apple Watch Series 6 won't be a much higher price than it is now.
Yeah, I think they've been doing a pretty good job of like keeping the price relatively close to the same. So I think that
Yeah,
they're going to try to keep with that trend.
very cool. So we got Apple Watch OS 6.2 on Tuesday, March 24th, along with a bunch of updates. But let's talk about this one. Did you update
I did.
to?
I did. I haven't noticed any
Okay.
major differences, but I did update.
Yeah. It doesn't look like a major update for the watch, but the release notes state that it introduces in app purchases for Apple Watch apps, fixes an issue where music playback could pause when switching from Wi Fi to Bluetooth connectivity. ECG app on Apple Watch Series 4 later, now available in Chile, New Zealand, and Turkey. And irregular heart rhythm notifications now available in Chile, New Zealand, and Turkey as well. So some of the above features that we mentioned may not be available for all countries or all areas. For more information, visit Apple's official iOS feature availability webpage.
Yeah, that's probably why we didn't notice a lot. The music playback though is actually a good feature enhancement, like switching from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth on a thing. That's kind of cool because I know right now, even on like my computer, switching from my headphones from one thing to another, or like going from the network onto Wi-Fi, sometimes I get a hiccup there. So
Hmm,
cool.
interesting. Well, why don't we move on to an Apple Watch heartwarming story? We actually have one.
Yay!
Yeah, so it's a woman who claims an Apple Watch saved her life. She was posting in Baby Center forums claims that her watch might have saved her life. I believe Baby Center is baby clothes and supplies and stuff,
Hmm.
as far as I know.
Right. Right.
Didn't research that part, but I believe that's what it is. And it doesn't state in the article. So, according to her post, it also does not state her name, but last week I felt dizzy and my Apple Watch alerted me that my heart rate was unusually high, like 158. I'm usually around 55 to 60. This happened a few more times and I chalked it up to anxiety. I made an appointment with my doctor who ordered blood work. Blood work comes back in my hemoglobin is in the deadly range. It's 5.2 and anything below 7 is life-threatening.
Wow.
So she claims that if it had not been for her watch, she might have not known of this problem and she might have gone in for blood transfusion where it could have resulted in more serious consequences. So there
Hmm.
you have it, another life-saving story about the
This
Apple
one's really
Watch.
interesting too because
Oh,
it's not an AFib like we've been seeing a lot of our past
yeah,
ones too. This is just showing like, even in your day to day, it could alert you to something weird going on that could be something like this. So really cool.
yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't we move on to some Apple Watch extended stories? We got a few of those.
Yeah, actually going into the health again. So Apple Watch users can monitor their body's response to the COVID-19 flu with the Cardiogram app. And this is coming to us from Apple Insider. The body's resting and sleeping heart rate can look vastly different when the body is fighting an infection like the COVID-19. So starting Thursday, Cardiogram has been actually, this was from a little while ago, so it is out there now. But Cardiogram is introducing a new feature that will let users easily spot and track these heart rate differences in their Apple Watch, giving them more data to monitor their sickness. The new sleeping BPM feature can help users become more aware of how their body is responding to symptoms or the flu or illnesses, said Johnson Heelish of Cardiogram's co founder. When you're sick, cells in your immune system release small proteins called histamines, which cause inflammation and expansion of blood vessels. This process sends signals to your brain to increase your heart rate and the amount of blood sent to the inflamed regions. This type of elevated heart rate during times of infection or fever is most notable during sleep. So hence, the new feature could offer some insights into how a user's body is responding to a sickness. The team does caution that sleeping BPM isn't intended to diagnose the flu or COVID-19 and shouldn't be used as a replacement for medical diagnostic tests and tools. There are unrelated conditions or routine events that can cause elevated heart rate. Their quote is, "Rather, we're providing users with an additional tool to become more aware of how flu-like symptoms may be affecting their body through heart rate patterns." Cardiogram says its feature is unique because it integrates with other data to assist users in contextualizing and interpreting data. Many of Cardiogram's users have existing heart conditions, which can place them at much higher risk for developing serious complications from viruses like the flu or COVID-19. Of course, the feature will require users to wear their Apple Watch or other compatible heart monitoring accessory during sleep. That probably cuts into the time that the typical users charge their wearable, but could still be useful for those who are participating in social distancing or are already sick. The feature is a free upgrade of the Cardiogram app, and it's also free to use. For those who want to remotely monitor a loved one or export data to the doctors, the app also offers a premium membership for $25 a year. So, a really interesting way to kind of keep on your health, especially if this is something that's a concern for you. And Kevin, if I recall correctly, you sleep with your watch on, so you can also talk about how to charge your watch, essentially.
I do. And I also have this app. I have the Cardiogram app. I actually signed up for the premium membership. They give you a 7-day free trial. And then
Hmm.
after that, the $25 a year is actually the discount because as last I looked, so at the time of listening to this episode, it may have changed, but they were offering 75% off the premium membership. So that $25 a year reflects that.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided not to sign up for it because I don't think I would get use out of the premium features for myself. But I do like the
Right.
app. I've had it quite a while. It's kind of another app that just kind of helps, monitor your heart. I have actually a few of them, but it's a cool app. As far as sleeping, I have been sleeping with my watch still. I don't kind of check my sleep apps as much anymore. I just
Hmm.
For me, I just been basing on how I feel, which, you know, during this time for everyone, I think everyone's sleep is a bit amiss right now.
Hmm.
So looking at data doesn't totally tell me a lot right now. And as far as charging, like you mentioned, I just usually wake up now with 30% battery left, which is pretty decent, and
Hmm.
then throw it on the charger, and probably within an hour or so it's back to 100%. So that's what I do.
That's
But
good.
yeah, if you're interested in getting the premium membership to this app, yeah, I would check because, like I said, I didn't see a date when this special expires, the
Hmm.
75% discount. But I would imagine it's soon. I don't know. Well, you never know. Maybe they'll do it for a month or so. But yeah, if you're interested in that discount, I would check it out. But it's a pretty cool app if you're really into heart monitoring data. It's a good app. So, why don't we move on to some quick Apple stories? Not sure if people have heard this, so I want to mention because this story popped up on the 17th of March. But Apple is keeping all its stores outside of China closed, right? And they had planned on it being indefinitely. They've also reopened all their stores in China, or not. Yeah, at the time of this article, it was all 42 stores. So that's pretty cool. Good to hear that China is kind of evening out with the
Hmm.
coronavirus. But all the stores are closed. And now they're saying that they may start reopening stores in the first half of April, which we'll see about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. If things continue on this trend, I don't know.
Yeah, one of their head of operations said that, but I would imagine it wouldn't be all the stores at once. I would imagine it is based on which cities are kind of hardest hit. Because last I checked, too, New
Hmm.
York has a lot of cases, maybe because people are, packed in a
Yeah.
little more densely there. So we'll see when that happens. But I don't know. They're setting a date for the first half of April. See how that goes. And related to that, if you had a repair that you left at the Apple store, it is stuck there and probably for
Yeah.
quite a while. They tried notifying customers for a few days. I believe they would send you an email or maybe even text as well. People who did not pick their devices up, they're stuck there. They don't have a way to go in and then ship them out to you. If you were getting repairs done by sending it in, they will obviously send it back to you. Everything should be good. But yeah, I would check, if you have a device at an Apple store, there's probably no need to check. It is stuck
Yeah.
there for quite
Until
a
the stores
while.
open back up.
Yeah, you could check the status on the Apple Store in particular that you left your device at. Other than that, if you like I said,
What's another
if
20
you
more
sent
days without your
yeah.
device?
Yeah, that would be pretty wild. Pretty wild. I don't know what people are doing as far as, if you were out without your phone. Like I could survive without my iPad, but without the phone,
Yeah, I'd have a problem.
I don't know. Yeah. So, anyways.
Alrighty. Well, for those of us who are at home and hopefully do have your devices, Apple is offering Stay at Home collection of free Apple books, most likely aimed at helping folks pass the time when much of the world is in social distancing due to the COVID-19. Apple is offering a wide range collection of free titles in various genres. Some of the titles offered for free include The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I highly recommend The Time Machine. It's very good. Winnie the Pooh, so something to share with the children. If She Knew by Blake Pierce. Murder in an Irish Village by Carleen O'Connor. And The ABCs of Cookies, another one of my personal favorites. That one's a Sesame Street book, by the way.
Yeah. And these are just a few.
Hmm.
I want to point out too that some of them are books, some of them are audiobooks. And I happen to know that The Time Machine by H.G. Wells is read by Kelsey Grammer.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's good. You can listen to clips of it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool that they're doing this. I don't know how long it'll last. So I would say if you're interested in owning any of these books or the audiobooks, I would go and get them before they stop this offer.
Hmm.
So, did you know, John, that you can ask your phone, you can ask Siri, well, not just your phone, but any device with Siri, you can ask if you have the coronavirus. So,
What? Wow.
yeah. So this says iPhone users, but I would imagine it's any device with Siri. So if you're wondering whether you have the COVID-19, now you can turn to Siri. Apple has updated its voice assistant to provide users with a step-by-step questionnaire if they ask variations of "Hey Siri." I should probably stop saying Siri so much. But do I have the coronavirus? So, other tech giants such as Google and Facebook have launched resources dedicated to COVID 19 as well. I'm not sure if the Google Assistant does this as well. I would imagine it
Probably
does,
something
you
similar.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. The update came on Saturday, March 21st. Siri, if you ask Siri this question, Siri will ask users if they're exhibiting symptoms of disease such as fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath. Siri will advise people to say they have extreme or life-threatening symptoms to consider calling 911. If users say their symptoms are not extreme or life-threatening, Siri instructs people to stay home and avoid contact with other people. It advises them to contact medical provider if their condition becomes more severe. It also provides users with a link to the App Store where they can download telehealth apps and potentially receive virtual consultation.
Very cool. A nice way to kind of just, help you see if you really need to start seeking other medical attention.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I'm kind of afraid to ask. I mean, I'm not having any symptoms currently, but I just don't want to set off any red flags or,
Yeah.
you
All of a
know,
sudden, Apple
say,
quarantines you based off of your
yeah,
asks to
Apple shows
Siri.
up at my door.
You just stay there.
Tim Cook shows up at the door, or just with a
We're asking you
megaphone.
for 14. Yeah, outside your building. Please
Yeah,
stay inside for the next 2 weeks.
this is Tim Cook. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, for our collectors of friends, the attention hoarders, Apple is lifting the limits on iPhones, iPads, and the new MacBook Air purchases. So there was a limit on the number of iPhones, iPads, and MacBook Air models each customer could purchase that Apple put into place a few days ago, but it's already been lifted everywhere outside of China. There are still some limits in place overseas. Apple's website in China still has restrictions for 211 and 12.9-inch iPad Pros units each per person. But here in the States, you can go nuts. So
yeah,
go for it.
that's good. Yeah, I guess there was a brief limit because, there was just hordes of people working from home and needing devices and wanting to order tons,
Yeah.
So,
And it's their new product offerings too.
yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine they were trying to stock them like toilet paper,
Right.
but yeah.
Honey, we're out of roll. Can you hand me that other iPad? It's waterproof, right?
So that's right. So, I don't know if you've had to use your personal hotspot at your home, John, but Apple's been
Sometimes.
having issues. Yeah, Apple's been having issues and they're finally admitting it. So, Apple is aware of personal
Mm.
hotspot problems some users are facing after updating to iOS 13, according to a report published recently. So, the company reported distributed an internal document that authorized service providers acknowledging the issue. There is no fix for the problem yet, but there is a temporary workaround users can enjoy in the meantime. So the personal hotspot problem, which also can cause general data performance issue, is said to have been present since as far back as iOS 13.1.2. Apple
Wow.
insists it's not a hardware issue, but there's no software fix. Now, this article came out right before 13.4 or like a week before. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything since then whether 13.4 fixed this issue, but I'm pretty sure that they would have addressed it in 13.4.
I didn't see it in the notes.
Yeah, if you're having any issues still, though, they do recommend a kind of silly quick fix, and that's just toggling the personal hotspot off and then back on as a temporary workaround. So,
As with all things that are digital.
yeah, I don't know if you've ever watched IT Crowd, that
Oh
English
yeah.
TV show.
Uh-huh.
Have you tried turning it on and off again? So there you go. You can just try turning it on and off again. But yeah, I don't know. I would actually love to hear from anyone listening if they had a hotspot problem and they're still having it on 13.4. I would like to know. Write us at on Facebook, message us.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, Oprah Winfrey has a new Apple TV Plus show called Oprah Talks COVID-19. And guess what, Kevin? It's arriving for free streaming, even for those who don't
Sweet.
have the subscription. So, Apple recently introduced the first 2 episodes of its new TV show, Oprah Talks COVID-19. In the first episode, Oprah interviews actor rather, Idris Elba. I was like, Dr. Idris Elba. No, the actor,
Oh yeah,
who
yeah.
recently tested positive for coronavirus, as well as his wife, Sabrina Dowry, who was also positive. In the second episode, Oprah talks to longtime friend and supporter, Reverend Wintley Phillips, about the pandemic. The interviews are conducted over FaceTime video calls with the guests and are meant to offer hope and thought leadership. Though the majority of Apple TV programming is available on subscription, again, this is for free. And it can be watched across platforms, including the Apple TV app for Mac, iPad, iPhone, online at tv.apple.com, and on an Apple TV Plus app, streaming on AirPlay enabled TVs. So very cool.
Cool.
Get a little sample of the Apple TV Plus content and get Oprah back on your TV for a little while.
And that's cool. They made it free. No subscription required. That's pretty cool. So if you're stuck at home and you're wanting to buy anything from Apple using your Apple ID, well, they're giving you an extra 10% bonus. So I'm not sure if this
Sweet.
states when it expires, but if you're planning to buy a lot of apps, movies, or books while stuck at home for the rest of the month, you might want to consider adding money to your Apple ID account and get more bang for your buck. Apple is giving customers 10% bonus when you add funds to your Apple ID. The money can be used in the App Store, iTunes, iCloud storage, books. I like how they call it iBooks here, but it's actually books now, Apple Music, and more. You can add as little as $10 to your account and get a free dollar, or deposit $200 and get a free $20. There doesn't seem to appear to be a limit on how much you can add or take advantage of this bonus. Oh, here's the date. The 10% bonus promotion runs through April 3rd. It's currently only available in the United States, Canada, Australia, Germany, and select other countries. And if you don't know the steps on how to add it to your Apple ID, you can open the Settings app on your iPhone or iPad, tap on the Apple ID at the top of the screen, select iTunes and app stores, tap your Apple ID email address, and then choose View Apple ID. Hit the Add Funds option in the middle of the page, enter the amount you want to add, tap Next, verify the payment, and boom, there's your free money. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I want to mention this because I listen to Beats One quite a bit now. So starting on March 23rd, the show hosts on Beats One are now recording from the safety of their homes. So for a while there, I'm talking from experience, there was only shows that were on repeat, like previous episodes that they were just repeating over and over. And I was kind of like, man, what is going on? They didn't make any announcement about it. So according to Apple, they will use FaceTime on their phones to conduct interviews with popular musicians like Elton John and Hayley Williams. It's not clear whether or not the anchors will use iPhones to record their non-interview sections of their shows, but it would be surprising if they opted for smartphones over more professional audio equipment such as condenser microphones and preamps. However, exclusive programs from Queen of the Stone Age Josh Homme, Vampire Weekend's Ezra Koenig, and more will indeed be recorded on their iPhones. That's interesting.
Yeah.
This is pretty cool. I like it. I definitely would like to hear some of the shows I was listening to. They don't mention Zane Lowe on here, but I do like New Music Daily. I like his interviews. I like the way he conducts interviews, and I've missed listening to the show. So hopefully they'll all be back. I do know that Mike D already has been recording his show, called The Echo Chamber. He records that from home anyways. So he's been
So they
doing
already
that
had
for a long time.
precedence, yeah.
Well, I think he, being that he's Mike D, he already had the gear at home.
Right.
So
I was gonna say, is there any audio difference that you can tell between his show and others? Or is it all pretty much
no.
consistent?
Well, no, I haven't. Well, here's the thing: is I haven't heard any of the new shows that might be recorded at home with someone's iPhone. I haven't heard any of them yet. So when they were recording previously, they would record in a professional studio. They have a Beats One
saying
studio.
like Mike D's recordings before, even at home, it still sounded the same quality just because he has all the stuff.
Yeah. Sometimes if he would, FaceTime someone, FaceTime audio doesn't sound super great, but yeah, his audio is always good, So anyways, hopefully all the hosts are safe, and hopefully their shows will be back up soon.
Yeah. Alrighty. So this next article is actually from today, and it was on the Apple Insider website. Apple planning Face ID and Mac for MacBook Pro and iMac. Just as Touch ID began on the iPhone before spreading to the iPad, and then the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air, so Face ID is coming to Apple's range of Macs. It's been rumored before, and Apple has said that Face ID will come to more devices, but a new patent application is the first to specify that it will be brought to some form of MacBook. Light recognition module for determining a user of a computing device is the US patent filed by Apple. It's chiefly concerned with adding Face ID to MacBooks, although instead of in those terms, it consistently refers to it as a light recognition module on a laptop. The patent goes into great detail about the specifics of how this light dot projector is used and how the results are interpreted. But the short version is that this is Face ID on MacBooks. And what's really funny is if you look at the article, they have sketches of their descriptions, and it shows the Face ID is coming with a notch. So there's a little cutout on the screen
Oh
showing
man.
where the modules could be, although it is possible that the notch will not exactly be the same as on the iPhones. Apple proposes that the Face ID module will be in a partition, which could be disposed adjacent to the display layer or above it. In some examples, the partition is a notch, a circle, an ellipse, some kind of polygon shape, a series of polygon shapes, a curvilinear shape, or the like. So, however, the patent text is overwhelmingly concerned with laptop. There was one single drawing in it that also shows Face ID notch being used on an iMac style chassis. So this is leading us to believe that they are exploring and potentially going to be releasing Face ID on their Macs very soon.
Hmm.
I thought the notch was really funny, and it makes me wonder if they're trying to consider removing the bezels even more on some of their devices. Like I know it's pretty thin on that new 16-inch MacBook Pro and on their new display, but there's still like the Face ID or the FaceTime camera. So I don't think they'll be getting rid of it entirely
Hmm.
just yet, or maybe they will. Maybe they'll be doing it and giving a notch to kind of house all that hardware. Really interesting to see.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I'm looking at my computer right now, my laptop, and I'm like, well, I guess they could have less bezel, but then just have a little notch, like
Mm-hmm.
on my kind of toolbar up above. There's usually nothing there. There's text on the left, text on the right, or apps, stuff like that. But they can easily probably fit a notch, which
Yeah. Oh yeah.
wouldn't be horrible, I guess. I mean, we've got so used to the notch on the iPhone, and then all the Android phones like did the same thing pretty much.
Yeah.
So
It just kind of became, I mean, instead of thinking about the fact that you have a notch in your phone or on your display, it's more just kind of thinking of the idea that you have more screen around your configurable items, right? Would you rather your screen be shorter, or would you rather have the maximum amount of real estate and have those capabilities
yeah,
as part of your phone? What I think would be interesting though is if they got rid of the bevel completely and did go towards the notch. I wonder if it would change the radius on the edge of their computers, because right
hmm,
now, like on the MacBooks, they're pretty rounded, and I think that might look kind of weird if your screen was also rounded like that. Um, so I'm curious to see, how this may also inform just the actual form of their computers later on too.
interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting stuff. Well, we'll see what happens. So, along with our watchOS 6 update, there was iOS 13.4 that was released on Tuesday, the 24th, as well. So, this brought a lot of changes. Why don't we go over these together this time? So, we
Yeah.
actually got, sorry, not just iOS, but macOS, iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, and of course, we mentioned watchOS and HomePod software. So we can go into some of the important details together here.
Yeah. So I was looking at the iPad OS, and in 13.4, it's all about that mouse. So the new
I've tried it
version
too.
is, yeah. And what were your thoughts on it? How did it feel?
Well, I don't. Okay, let me explain. Apparently, because I watched videos just to confirm that my information was correct too. It
Hmm.
looks like the Magic Mouse 2. So if you have an Apple Magic Mouse 2, it works great. Does all the gestures, does scrolling. Now, I apparently probably have a Magic Mouse 1, and I'm using an iPad Air 2. The video I watched was actually an iPad Air 2 as well. And this guy was using, of course, the Magic Mouse 2 and doing all the gestures. He even tried another third party, Bluetooth mouse that just had kind of like one of those center like scrolling wheels
Hmm.
and right click. Like you can set a left click or right click, and he was able to use it to its full
No problem.
capabilities on the iPad. Yeah. I'm able to just kind of browse around apps, kind of click on apps, stuff like that, highlight some text, but it wasn't as full featured. I wish we had a, Magic Mouse 2 roaming around here, but we don't here at home. But it was still pretty neat. I was able to see the settings for it and, like I said, click on a few things. But yeah, it's neat. And the little icon or cursor is like a circle, you know,
Hmm.
and I guess the video I watched as well, you can adjust the size of the cursor, right? And you can change
Oh,
the
that's
color.
interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to send you
Oh,
the video. I should actually put it in the show notes, but um, yeah, it's pretty cool. So I guess if you have a Magic Mouse 2, you're good. And what's neat though is, like I mentioned, I have an iPad Air 2, which I am forgetting how old that is, but it's pretty old now. But
yeah.
yeah, you can use a mouse and a trackpad. I don't have a trackpad to try either. So, but I've seen videos. It works, and it works on even older devices. So, well, in any iPad that can run 13.4, it'll work on.
Hmm.
So,
I think it's
but
interesting. I mean, it's time that it came out, especially with the new iPad Pro and that new trackpad keyboard cover combo that they've been demonstrating. I did notice there was a small, cool little design feature in that circle cursor and how it transitions from um, the circle into the line for text and stuff like that. So there's some pretty
oh
cool little
yeah,
slick
yeah,
things going on with that. But I didn't know you could change the color and
yeah,
stuff. That's really good, and I'm sure it's an accessibility thing, so you can really see it if you need to. Very
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's pretty cool. What else did we get? Let's see. They rearranged the Mail app's toolbar. Okay, I don't really use their Mail app. Let's see. New emoji stickers. Not.
Yeah, man.
They don't. I don't
You can
know.
use the
Not
party
super
horn now.
exciting. You could be staring into your laptop, your Mac laptop too.
I'll
Okay.
probably use the eye roll one a little bit more than I should.
Where's that one?
It's not shown
Yeah.
here, but it is descriptive
It's a new one?
or described. Yeah, rolling eyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what else did we get? In the Files app, there's an iCloud Drive folder sharing from the Files app. I didn't know that you couldn't share, but okay.
Yeah, I think you can give a whole. You can do like a whole file, instead of just an individual file,
Mm.
or like you can do a whole folder actually instead of just a file. So
And you'll like this too. CarPlay, the third-party navigation support.
yes, yes, I'm very excited about this. So you can now use Waze and Google Maps as the map for CarPlay, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool stuff. I'm just browsing through
Um,
this to see what else there is, anything that's important, because I don't think we're put everyone to sleep by reading every single detail here. We'll have a link in the
hey
show
man,
notes, of course.
predictive typing support for Arabic. We'll be using that a lot, I'm sure.
But I would imagine it's important to some people. I'm
Oh yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Let me see what else. I don't see anything that's like major here. Looking at a few articles, and of course, there is no mention of fixing that error with
Oh yeah, the hotspot sharing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't see
So
any fix, but
I mean, this is an incremental increase, right? It's 13.4, so there's not going to be a lot of major things. The memojis and
Yeah.
the mouse support are the marquee kind of enhancements. So it's still
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So we'll have a link in the show notes for those articles. So why don't we move on then to some Apple extended stories? So this one was cool.
Yeah. So the WWDC 2020 was set to start taking place in June, but because of the virus, Apple is teasing a online experience for their WWDC 2020. The page has been updated, and the company is promising a big program with a completely new online experience. It went live on March 13th and is devoid of any real information about the event, including specifically when it starts beyond June. Um, and so their direct quote on the site is, "This June, WWDC 20 brings a completely new online experience to millions of talented and creative developers around the world. Join us for a fully packed program, including keynote and sessions to gain early access to the future of Apple platforms and engage with Apple engineers. Dive into an exciting learning experience and discover how to create your most innovative apps yet using the latest Apple technologies." The site promises more information coming on the web, by email, and in the Apple Developer app. So yeah, super exciting. Apple has also been saying that they had been looking for an innovative way to share with millions of developers around the world, bringing the entire developer community together with a new experience. That was Phil Schiller, the Apple Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing. He said the current health situation has required that we create a new WWC 2020 format that delivers a full program with an online keynote and sessions, offering great learning experiences for our entire developer community around the world. So, and with all of the new big products and technology he's been working on, it's going to be big, said Craig Federighi. I look forward to our developers getting their hands on the new code and interacting in entirely new ways with the Apple engineers, building the technologies and frameworks that will shape the future across all Apple platforms. Apple says that there are more than 23 million registered developers in 155 countries and regions. Additionally, Apple also says that it'll provide 1 million to local San Jose organizations to offset revenue loss from the shift to an online-only event. So it's clearly because of the corona pandemic. On March 9th, the County of Santa Clara Public Health Department issued an edict banning all mass gatherings for 3 weeks. And while that doesn't encompass the typical June timeframe for the event, it isn't clear when the actual outbreak will subside. So this is Apple just kind of having a little forethought into the future, and actually, I think potentially allowing this to become opened up to even more people, which is really really cool
Yeah.
and exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And of course, let me point out that since that since the county of Santa Clara made that decision, a lot has changed because everything changes day by day. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where some of our listeners are located, but here in California, we're on a full state lockdown. So that would keep any public events. They
Yep.
don't even want more than 10 people getting together, which that shouldn't even be happening. Anyways, this is very cool that it's still going on, because I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you heard that um, Google I/O, their developers conference that they do annually, that was going to be some kind of video event as well. And now they just canceled the whole thing,
Oh
which is
wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what made them cancel. I don't know. I actually usually listen to those or watch them. Last year's was not very exciting. So maybe this year's wasn't going to be exciting. I don't know. Or less exciting. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
kind of sad that that's not still being held. But I'm glad that Apple is going to do this event still somehow. So very cool. So did you know that there's 8 Apple products that made Fortune's greatest design of modern times? Did you know that?
Wow. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So the magazine has partnered with the IIT, Institute of Design, to poll educators, influencers, freelance designers, and corporate design teams on the creations they consider truly great. So the iPhone topped the list for the way in which the device has transformed human communication and nearly every aspect of how we live. Number
That's
two
that's
on the
fair.
Hmm? Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
fair.
for
I think
sure.
that is a good pick.
Yeah, and number two on the list is the Macintosh because Apple started the personal computer revolution with the Apple II, but the Macintosh defined the category.
Hmm.
Number 10 on the list is the iPod, which revolutionized a category with a closed system and propelled the music industry forward. The MacBook Pro, which untethered creative professionals from workstation computers, is number 14 on the list. Coming in
Also
at
agree with
number
that.
22, yeah, coming in at number 22 is the Apple Store with the app,
Oh.
or sorry, the app. Did I? Oh, it's the App Store. So with the App
Oh, right,
Store,
right.
yeah, sorry, not the Apple Store, the App Store. With the App Store, Apple pays developers handsomely to create ever greater apps that make this all possible. All this is refined by a principle, curated force of nature that makes us feel inspired and optimistic that life is perpetually getting better, says Jason Ring, Senior Design Manager at Uber.
Yeah, just kind of
iOS
weighing in
is
on that too.
mm,
Sorry, real quick.
mhm.
That I mean, the thing about the App Store is it kind of is like the extension of the American dream, right? Like you can make a thing and put it out there into the market, and you have
Yeah.
very little barriers, right? And just your destiny is based off of your work, and the App Store kind of became that an easy way for people to access that digital market, which is really really cool.
Yeah. Very cool stuff. So then iOS is number 29 on Fortune's list as a mobile operating system that is simple to use but powerful enough for serious work. The
Mm.
Apple Watch at spot number 46 offers the power of an iPhone in a package not much bigger than a postage stamp. And the last product from Apple that's on Fortune's list is Apple Pay, which offers digital payments authorized by your face or fingerprints.
Very cool.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I
So,
agree with Apple
mm,
Pay too, because if you try to
mm,
use like other companies' digital wallets, they're not always that great, unless I think
really?
they integrate with Apple Pay.
Yeah, I haven't tried any, but
I'll say
the
Starbucks.
ease of use
Starbucks
is
is
pretty
pretty
good.
good. Theirs comes up pretty easily. I was trying to
Mm,
do like a Kroger Pay. Oh, it was just not
wow.
not good.
The name alone doesn't sound good.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Kroger
it's the
Pay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like Walmart also has their whole deal, and it's just not.
Oh
No, I'll
man.
just use my card. It's fine.
Yeah, those are no good. CVS tried to
Hmm.
do that for a while. That I don't think we had started this podcast when that whole story broke. They already had NFC payments,
Hmm.
so you could
Yeah, they
use
kind
like
of lost their
Google
own
Pay,
thing.
and then when Apple Pay came out, they just cut it off and tried to do their own payment system. And then now they take Apple Pay and NFC payments.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whatever. Yeah, it's
Stay in
easy.
your
It's
lane,
easier
guys.
for people if it's just yeah. It's really is easier for people if it's just NFC payments across the board, meaning Apple Pay, Google Pay, whatever, Samsung Pay.
Hmm.
It's just easier that way than trying to implement these like company by company pay
Yeah, these little a
options.
la
It's
carte
it's
things
silly.
now.
Yeah, it's silly.
And even the Starbucks
Any
app, you can or card you can put in your Apple Pay and use just directly. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. See, that's what they should do with the other services. Then it would be a
yeah,
little better to use. So we got a bunch of new products as well, not just software. So Apple announced new iPad Pro, MacBook Air, and Mac Mini on Wednesday, March 18th. So why don't we go into some details about these? You can start us off with the iPad Pro. We spoke about it a little bit about the trackpad
yeah.
or trackpad support on
I
13.4, but
I am super super excited about this new product, and it's been a long time coming. I think it's the Pro had been out there for a little while, but the new exciting thing is this trackpad support, and this wild keyboard cover that Apple has designed. So they announced their new iPad Pro on March 18th. And it was available online for either $7.99 or $9.49 for the 128 gigabyte Wi-Fi configurations, depending on the size. And they're available to order now, and they should be shipping now as well. They started shipping on March 25th. Both the 11 and the 12.9 inch sizes look identical to last year's model, but there's a new processor and a new camera system inside both. Apple's headline feature is that it has a LiDAR scanner to go along with its camera for depth sensing and AR. But what most people are going to notice is that new keyboard that you can get with it. So this keyboard unfolds and elevates the iPad to a more comfortable viewing position so you can see above. It also has a trackpad on it, and Apple says rather than copying the experience from Mac OS, the trackpad support has been completely reimagined for iPad. As users move their finger across the trackpad, the pointer elegantly transforms to highlight user interface elements. And you can see a very brief example of it in the videos. And that was kind of what we were talking about before, how that cursor will change depending on what you're highlighting over. Apple is calling it the Magic Keyboard, matching the branding it recently used on the redesigned and improved MacBook keyboard. It's backlit, supports USB-C pass-through charging, and has a smooth angle adjustment. But unfortunately, it won't be available until May. But it will be compatible with last year's iPad Pros as well. Also, speaking of unfortunately, it will cost a whopping $299 for the 11-inch model and $349 for the 12.9-inch version. As for the iPad Pro itself, Apple has historically had a lot of extra power in the processor, and that appears to be no different this time. Apple calls it the A12Z Bionic chip with 8 cores in the CPU, and Apple isn't shy about saying that it is more powerful than most Windows PC laptops. The company also made a little ad for it along the lines of its classic "What's a Computer" ad, and the battery life is estimated at 10 hours and supports gigabit LTE but not 5G. I will also say, though, that it does also support Wi-Fi 6, which is the new Wi-Fi standard. And I think this might be the first product that they are releasing that does support the new Wi-Fi 6. I haven't checked the other devices yet that they just released, but I think this is the first one. The 3-camera array may look like the 3 cameras on the iPhone 11 Pro, but on the iPad Pro, it is a different setup. There's a wide angle and an ultra wide, but the third sensor is that LiDAR, which uses lasers for depth sensing and augmented reality. And we had been expecting a triple camera system for the iPad Pro for some time, given how many leaks and rumors about it. And it was presumed to support more advanced AR features. So there's been plenty of rumors around support, and there's been plenty of rumors around support for a trackpad and smart keyboard. So this is basically just kind of answering all of those rumors that have been coming out. The iPads are available in silver and gray in the 128, 256, and 512 or 1 terabyte storage options. And a fully maxed out 12.9-inch iPad Pro with 1 terabyte of storage and LTE will cost you $1,649. If you toss in the Magic Keyboard at $349, you're spending $1,998 before tax on an iPad.
Whew,
but
man.
it's blending the worlds, right? It's very laptop-ish.
Yeah.
And will still
Yeah.
also support the Apple Pencil. So very
Crazy.
cool, I
That's a
think.
lot of money, but it looks amazing. I like the commercials they made too.
I
They're
loved
really
the
cool. I
commercial.
think
It had a like
I
a Wes
sent you that
Anderson kind
one.
of vibe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was super good. I liked him.
Yeah. Very cool. So if I didn't explain, because I can't really test, the trackpad and everything, here's how the new trackpad actually works, and the mouse, I guess. So, and this article has a video from Craig Federighi. It's also interesting because you would expect him to be explaining these things in a presentation on stage, but instead
Mm-hmm.
he's just all by himself due to the virus going around.
Yeah.
So okay, let me explain it a little better. So the pointer only appears when you need it. The mouse pointer won't be persistent on the screen at all times, instead only appearing when you're touching the trackpad. So this on the trackpad. The pointer is a little circular dot. Apple says the shape makes the most sense for the iPad, which again is fundamentally designed around touching with your fingers,
Hmm.
but it can change shape based on what it's pointing at. You know how your desktop mouse pointer turns into a hand, text cursor, or a little resize arrow depending on what it's pointing at? The iPad pointer does a similar thing. But since so many of the UI elements of the iPad are big, touchable buttons, the way the iPad cursor changes is a little different. It changes shape by the size of the touch target area for the button. If the animations bug you, apparently you will be able to turn them off. So you can do mouse stuff you'd expect, like selecting cells in a spreadsheet and pinching and zooming. It's probably going to be way better for manipulating text, they say. Selecting, copying, pasting, and dragging blocks of text around is going to be way easier than your finger gymnastics the iPad currently requires. It supports some navigation gestures, although it won't work exactly like the Mac. There will be some gestures you can use. They include move your cursor to the button of the screen and bring back the dock. Number 2 is click on the status icons in the upper right corner to bring up Control Center. Move your cursor to the right of the screen and bring out slide over apps. Go home by swiping up with 3 fingers. And so it's going to be a lot to remember because
I
then you
use some
have
of those already,
separate
though.
gestures. Yeah. Yeah, some of them. Yeah. Open multitasking by swiping up and holding with 3 fingers. Swipe between open apps by swiping left and right with 3 fingers. Swipe between slide over apps by swiping using 3 fingers when the cursor is inside the slide over app. So this is pretty cool. And sorry if I said mouse and trackpad. This is at the beginning. This is just the trackpad. So yeah, and in this article, which we'll have in the show notes, that like I said, there's a neat video by Craig Federici where he's all by himself.
I just really love this this overall new direction that they're kind of going with it. I like that it connects to the cover, and the cover becomes like a mount for it too, and it floats up there. So really cool product, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. A lot of money for that trackpad and
It is.
keyboard,
Yeah,
though. Wow,
yeah.
that is something else.
Maybe that's why they they had a. It's probably a marketing thing to split it up. Like get people to buy the iPad now, and in a couple of months, it might be a little easier to throw down another 350.
That's right. Oh man.
So moving on, the MacBook Air also got an updated keyboard and souped up specs, and it's starting at just $999. So Apple offers up a new version of the MacBook Air with some souped up internals, including a 10th generation Intel processor and double the storage. Honestly, the big news here is for many though is probably the updated keyboard, doing away with a couple of generations of misfires on that front. Starting at $999 or $899 for education users. The latest versions of Apple's favorite thin and light, awesome computer doubles performance from Apple's numbers, courtesy of new silicon. It's configurable for up to 1.2 gigahertz quad core i7 with a turbo boost up to a 3.8 gigahertz, which is the default configuration, is a 1.1 gigahertz dual core i3. So you can go from the i3 up to the i7, and you can take the i7 and you can turbo boost it to 3.8 gigahertz if you want to. That's bolstered by Intel's Iris Plus graphics, which the company says are up to 80% faster than their predecessors. The system starts at 256 gigabytes of storage, double that of the previous model, and it's configurable up to 2 terabytes SSD. Both configurations support 8 gigs of RAM. The Air is getting the same Magic Keyboard mechanism that was introduced in the 16-inch MacBook Pro last year. That new the new scissor mechanism offer far more travel than earlier maligned MacBook keyboard, and it should hold up much better. The new MacBook Air is made from 100% recycled aluminum and is available in gold, silver, and space gray. It sports a 13.3 Retina display and can support an external 6K monitor via the two Thunderbolt 3 ports, making it the first Air to do so. There are two base models, the $999 and the $1299. The latter can be configured up to 2249 price point if you really want to go wild. And they are available now through Apple's website.
Cool. Man, those seem pretty good.
Yeah, it's like they took all the best parts of the Pro and then put it into the consumer baseline model, which is pretty nifty and pretty powerful too, all things considered.
And finally, a good keyboard. They're finally
Yes, yeah.
scrapping all the bad keyboards across the board with all their products. Good,
Yeah.
good. So, yeah, and the third product we got that was released recently was the Mac Mini. So the base price is $799, and now it has double the storage. So Apple's issued a minor update to the Mac Mini, with it now including double the storage at the previous entry level model price for the same price. So nothing
It's a great
else
deal.
appeared. Yeah, it's a great deal. So nothing else appears to have changed in the Mac Mini other than the default flash storage. So for the standard $799 model, you'll get 256 gigabytes of storage with an Intel i3 processor, and the $1,099 model now has 512 gigabytes of storage with an Intel i5 processor. Additional configurations include higher storage and better processors. A model with an Intel i7 processor maxed out storage at 2 terabytes and 64 gigabytes of RAM retails for $2,899. So there's pickup options are available due to the Apple Store closures, but orders placed immediately will ship by Friday the 20th. And just
So
to
they're
note
shipping
them,
now.
yeah. So, and the Mac Mini is Apple's cheapest desktop option, just so you know. I don't know that you can even I don't think you can pick up that
No.
information's old and invalid, but they can ship it to you, that's for sure. So, pretty cool.
Well,
Pretty
so
cool
yeah,
update.
there's some great products coming out there. Still haven't heard about a new 12-inch MacBook Pro or 13-inch MacBook Pro,
Yeah, or 14-inch,
um,
whichever it's
or
going to be.
14-inch. Yeah.
Yeah, there was rumors
Um,
for a while, but
I
haven't
think
heard
we'll still
anything
see it.
since. I
I'm wondering if we're going to see a new. They might announce it when they also announce the new iMac Pro, because that's
mm,
also rumored to come out this year. So they might be doing
yeah,
another hardware bump soon.
cool. Yeah, that would be good.
Kind of finishing us off here today. Tim Cook, Apple is donating millions of masks to healthcare professionals, and this is from Apple World Today. So, Apple CEO Tim Cook has tweeted that the tech giant is donating millions of masks to healthcare professionals in the US and Europe. He says, our teams at Apple have been working to source supplies for healthcare providers fighting the COVID 19. We're donating millions of masks for health professionals in the US and Europe. To every one of the heroes on the front lines, we thank you. Along the same lines, announced during a recent White House daily briefing, Vice President Mike Pence told the media that Apple had pledged to donate 2 million industrial face masks, which will be provided to healthcare workers in areas hardest hit by the coronavirus. The VP asked other companies to provide other donations of medical supplies as well as those of smaller businesses and individuals who may have supplies on hand. So, really cool. Just
Very
showing
cool.
Apple doing their part.
Yeah.
Very
So
nice.
I've also heard on another like tech podcast that people were kind of wondering like, wait, why do these big tech companies have all these like N95 masks? And there is a reason for it. So if you look
Hmm.
at where they're located, they were kind of near a lot of the fires that were happening here in California, last year?
Oh, so they
Yeah.
supplied. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had bought, their employees a bunch of N95 masks which keep out the ash and, other particles. So now that they have tons on hand, they're starting to donate them. So, because
Hmm.
yeah, it looks like they're donating a lot of them. You definitely would be like, how do they have millions of masks? But they have a lot of
Yeah.
employees, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and
that's why they have millions of masks.
it was probably smart too because the fires had become more consistent, just to start keeping them on hand and
Oh yeah,
trying to be
well yeah,
prepared,
because
for it. So,
yeah, hopefully they won't be short when fire season. comes back. But hopefully there'll be a lot of companies making those masks, and
Yeah.
that actual product seems like a product that could be made year round now that we have this virus. And then here in California, again, we're going to get these fires every year, and they're probably not going to get any better, but probably get worse. So hopefully companies will still keep making these masks, and that's good on Apple for donating these masks. Pretty cool. So why don't we move on to our For Your Entertainment section now? In the last episode, I forgot to put this in there, so this is a little bit old, but maybe you haven't seen it. There was a new shot an iPhone video, and it was Apple's most ambitious project yet, because it was like a continuous video. It's actually 5 hours, 19 minutes, and 28 seconds. So
Wow.
this was, yeah, it's a continuous video, and it was shot at the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. It takes in 45 galleries, 588 works of art, and live performance, and all in one single take and battery charge. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
So the reason I wanted to put this in here too is, if you wanted to watch the whole thing, if you're at home, if you got 5
You got
hours,
some
19
time.
minutes. Yeah, if you got 5 hours, 19 minutes, and 28 seconds. So I put that in here. If you go to this link that we'll have in the show notes, it has the full video, or you can just check out the snippet. It is really beautiful. The snippet of it, like the trailer, is really cool. I think it's only a minute or a little over a minute long, but it's really beautiful. It's actually stunning. So, because I was expecting that they're just walking through a museum, but it seems like they purposely had things set up, to make it look really nice and everything. So,
Wow.
pretty cool. Check that out. At least check out the snippet trailer.
Well, and
Worth
to
checking
think
out.
about it too, just from a production standpoint, a 5 hour, almost 20-minute video of continuous take requires a lot
Hmm.
of pre-setup and logistics to really be able to pull off. So very, very cool. Bravo to them.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Well, that's all we have for this episode for your entertainment section. So why
The
don't
video
we
should
move?
keep you busy for a
Hmm?
while.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's for sure. So why don't we move on to our picks or tips? So guess I'll start again. I have a pick this episode, and mine is Overdrive app for ebooks and audiobooks. I thought this might come in handy if you have time at home or wherever. I actually used when I was working, used it all the time, used it at work while I was working, but there's not a lot to say about it except that it states the obvious. It's for downloading and listening or reading ebooks or listening to audiobooks from the library, to be exact. So the app is free, and getting a library card, at least here in the States, is pretty easy and it's free. So what I like about this app though is I haven't used it for ebooks, but I've used it for audiobooks. That's kind of my thing because I can listen at work, like I said. So what I like is, let's say you have an audiobook in there and you weren't able to listen to the entire book before it expires, because it'll expire and go back to the library by itself, right? But you can rent it again, of course. And when you do, once you get the book again, it just remembers where you left off, which is really handy, instead of going, oh man, it started from the beginning. I was 13 chapters into 40 chapters. So this remembers where you left off exactly. You can bookmark sections. So that's pretty cool. What I like too is, at least I have mine linked to the Los Angeles Public Library, and I would imagine it works for other libraries too. You can request books that they don't carry. Not every book, but if it's something that they think might be popular, you can request it, and then you'll be first on the list when it comes in. So
Super
it's
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah. Now this company that makes it, it's actually, if you, I don't have their website in here, but if you look at their website, it's actually a different company that actually makes this app. And they're trying to push their other app, which is called Libby. I'll have to do a review on that sometime too. And I've used both, but I like Overdrive better. I think it's a design thing too, and the books uh, appear bigger when you're listening to them, like the cover art. And I don't know, I
Hmm.
just have liked this one better, but it's actually made by the same company, so they kind of do the same thing. But I would recommend to people, if they're interested in getting some free audiobooks and ebooks, I would get this app before it's gone. But I would imagine once it's gone too, there won't be any support for it. So I may stop using it. But from what I understand, they're keeping around for a while. So it's worth checking out. It is available only on the iPhone and iPad, not the Apple Watch, unfortunately. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's very handy, very handy. So yeah, you can create wish lists, you can return titles easily, you can sync libraries and bookmarks and recent positions across mobile devices, which is cool. And yeah, not too much else to say about it, but I highly recommend it. Can't beat free books, and definitely being that you can request a popular book, it's great.
Hmm.
So,
My wife used to use this because she
oh really?
chews through books like bags of potato chips. So this was actually a great app for her.
Y-
And the only reason she stopped using it was because she switched to a Kindle because of the light
Oh,
coming from her phone. So she wanted we got the paper light that
oh
doesn't have
yeah,
any. You can actually turn the light off. But yeah, she loved Overdrive. So
yeah. Well,
high
this would come in hand.
recommendations.
Yeah, and this would come in handy for her if she was doing some audiobooks where you didn't have to,
Yes.
stare at your phone and have that light emitting to your
Hmm.
eyes. But yeah, and like I said, I've only used it for audiobooks. I haven't tried any ebooks in it, but yeah, it's very cool. So, what do you have? You have a pick or a tip this episode?
I got a tip. I got a tip today. So I don't know about you, um, but when I do my exercises, it doesn't always track
I
all of my
had this
time.
happen
Oh, that's right. You had this happen kind of
recently.
hardcore though.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of times I've noticed, so I ride a bike to work when I wasn't working from home. And it's about a 15-minute between, yeah, it's about a 15-minute ride from my house to the office. But as I've started doing it, I got stronger. And so I would sometimes not always hit my threshold. So I would have run, at the end of the day, I'll have done over 30 minutes of exercise back and forth, but my ring would be shy a minute or two.
Oh, the
And it
exercise ring on your Apple
The
Watch?
exercise ring, yeah,
Mhm.
and it was super frustrating because I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute, I know that I have over 15 minutes this way and that way, and really I just care about the time, and I'm so close, right?" So, if you've noticed that this happens to you and you're just shy a minute and you just wanna do something to kinda get your ring over because you know you did it, but the watch didn't for whatever reason. I have found that if you just set a yoga session, it will
Oh,
push
man.
you over the edge. You can be doing whatever else you're
The
doing. You can be cooking in the kitchen or moving around or sitting on the couch,
Yeah.
which is a modified bug pose. And you will get your credit for that last minute or so.
Yeah.
But
Well, you can, there's also an exercise in their selection. This would be in the default app that comes on your Apple Watch,
uh,
the workout app, right? There's an other exercise that's just
yeah.
anything that's not on their list is called other. So you can use
Mm,
that as well. I think there's actually a way to modify your exercises. We'll have to research that and find that, but I think there's actually a way to modify your exercises within the health app on your iPhone or the activity app. But
Yeah, I think
so
so.
yeah, we'll have to
I know
research it
there's
and
also
make that a tip.
like a
But
hack if you if for some reason it didn't record your stand goal, or
mhm.
you're missing it because you didn't put your watch on but you were up in the morning or something. If you record a minute of activity, so you can go back in time and just add a minute activity at that, 8 in the morning or whatever, when you were standing but you didn't have your watch on, it will register that as a stand as well. And so that's another
Hmm,
way you can get your goals. Again, don't cheat.
yeah.
Like, this is to
Yeah.
help fix the system when something happens, or your day is kind of messed up. If you got like 5 minutes left of a workout that you need to do, I'll actually do 5 minutes of yoga or something like that. But there
Yeah.
have been a
I
bunch of
mean,
times I'm looking at it and I'm like, 29 minutes, really?
yeah,
Come on.
and yoga wouldn't be cheating, of course. And I was going to say if you use the other section and maybe, while we're all at home is just put on some music, start dancing around your living room, that's exercise,
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's
mean,
true.
if you're moving enough, that's dancing enough and moving, that's exercise for sure. And I don't think that would be cheating. I want to point out my little bug. It was really weird because I've never had this happen. Like I've had an Apple Watch since day one, right? The very first
Mhm.
Series Zero. And this was probably the first time that I've had it happen. And mine was really weird. And I was sending you screenshots. I was texting you some. It was
Yeah. Oh,
weird
that's right, yeah.
because uh me and my fiance did a walk outside and it was like 40 minutes long. And then I look at my ring, my exercise ring, and I'm like, "What? What is happening here?" And it showed like 6 minutes of exercise, and I was like, "That's really weird." So I didn't get credit at all. But then I open up the activity app on my iPhone, and it shows a 40-minute workout, but it's still that sits below where the activity rings are in the activity app
Mhm.
in one of the sections, right? And I'm like, "Wait, it's showing it at the bottom that I did 40 minutes, shows a map of where I walked, but it's not registering up to the rings." And it's funny because I'm like, they're so close. Like, why can't you see
Yeah.
each other? But and I will say, at first I was kind of frustrated, and then considering everything that's going on, it's kind of not a big deal. And I would imagine that much like a lot of companies, that Apple is short on staff, so there's probably maintenance that needs to be done on certain software and hardware and internally at their offices, and maybe there's just some kind of little hiccup that someone couldn't maintain, and it is what it is.
Mhm.
And so I just wrote it off. I mean, and it does seem like not the biggest deal right now. I know that I
Yeah.
exercised, it shows it
Yeah.
in the activity app, and I'm like, well, okay, so you know I didn't get that exercise ring that day, but maybe it'll actually work itself out. So
Yeah.
Oh, I wanna actually backtrack a little bit too, but sort of related, but not Apple Watch, but just a little bug that I was having for a long time, and I think iOS 13.4 may have fixed, is I can set reminders for, remind me at 2 o'clock. I think I've mentioned this on a previous episode. Remind me at 2 o'clock to do this, and I'll get the reminder. This is through the default reminders app on your phone, so asking Siri, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, But for the longest time, probably, man, at least 6 months, if not more, I'm not actually sure when it really started, but I wasn't getting any repeat reminders. So in other words, if you wanted a daily reminder, a weekly reminder, a monthly reminder, not it would not work. Absolutely not work. So I had this idea before I downloaded iOS 13.4 and iPadOS 13.4. I just started over. I deleted all my reminders, right, on my iPhone.
Mhm.
I I turned off iCloud Sync for reminders. I deleted the reminders app from my iPad, and then I just started all over again, right? Made my
Mm.
first reminder on the iPhone, made it a test, like daily reminder test, then went back to the iPad, enabled that, make sure they were synced up, had iCloud backing up the reminders again, and so far seems to work.
Oh, good,
So
good.
so that's almost like a tip. If you had a problem with some app, definitely if it's a Apple made app, you might want to try something really crazy like that. And I don't know why in my head I think to do some of these weird fixes, but I think that it actually worked. I just figured just scrapping everything, and I didn't have any more important reminders anymore. I had to use a
Hmm.
different reminder app. But what I like
Yeah.
about the default reminders app is that even say a reminder appears on your lock screen, when you open your phone and then close it again, it still remains on your lock screen, but they don't let that be enabled for third party apps as far as I can
Hmm.
tell. So once you
Yeah, they don't want to
so
be
you get a
abused.
yeah, so once you get a reminder from a third party app, you open your phone, it's gone, and then you may not remember. So
Mm.
hopefully 13.4 keeps working out for me. It was a little bug, and so far it seems to work. But I actually wanted to mention that earlier and just got to it now. But yeah. Anyways, everyone be safe and be healthy.
Hmm.
And yeah. Well, that's it for this episode of the Apple Watchers. Read all the stories we've covered and more stories on Flipboard, a link provided in the show notes. Follow us on Facebook at the Apple Watchers Podcast and on Twitter at Watchers Tweet. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcast. You can also ask your smart speaker to play the Apple Watchers Podcast. Please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen. And thank you again for listening. Until the next episode, I hope the only complications in your life are the ones on the face of your Apple Watch.